Hi, praise be to God. The situation you're in calls for wisdom. In the Bible, there is a man who used wisdom to accomplish his goal. The man I'm referring to here can be found in the book of 2 Kings chapter 11. His name is Jehoiada. Jehoiada was a priest in the house of the Lord. In the book of 2 Kings chapter 11, Jehoiada outsmarted Athaliah by crowning Joash as king of Judah. Just to give you a little background, Athaliah was Ahaziah's mother. Ahaziah was the king of Judah. When he died, his mother proceeded to destroy the whole royal family. But Ahaziah's sister and the daughter of King Jehoram stole Joash and hid him at the temple of the Lord. So notice that Joash was the rightful heir to the throne, but he could not ascend to the throne because of Athaliah, so he was kept hidden. So Jehoiada devised a plan to crown Joash king of Judah. Athaliah ruled the land for 6 years. In the 7th year, Jehoiada made his move. In the book of 2 Kings chapter 11 verse 4, the word of the Lord says that, in the 7th year, Jehoiada sent for the commanders of units of 100, the Karites and the Gads, and had them brought to him at the temple of the Lord. He made a covenant with them and put them under oath at the temple of the Lord. Then he showed them the king's son. How did Jehoiada manage to pull this off without Athaliah noticing? This was a very risky move. Jehoiada had to be very wise to pull it off successfully. There was no room for error. One single mistake could be disastrous. If Athaliah suspected that there was something going on, she would have done something about it. She was very powerful then. In 2 Kings chapter 11 verse 5 to 11, Jehoiada gave them orders on what they should do, how they should do it, when. He was very involved in the process. There was no slacking off. He was very sharp, very careful, and very determined. Everything had to go as planned if he was to crown Joash successfully. Going to 2 Kings chapter 11 verse 12 to 14, the word of the Lord says that, Jehoiada brought out the king's son and put the crown on him. He presented him with the copy of the covenant and proclaimed him king. They anointed him, and the people clapped their hands and shouted, "Long live King!" When Athaliah heard the noise made by the guards and the people, she went to the people at the temple of the Lord. She looked, and there was the king standing by the pillar, as the custom was. The officers and the trumpeters were beside the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing and blowing trumpets. Then Athaliah tore her robes and called out, "Treason! Treason!" So how did Jehoiada manage to crown Joash as king without Athaliah ever noticing? How did he manage to let everyone know that Joash was about to be crowned, and even gather them together without Athaliah knowing? Probably Joash was crowned next to the palace, but Athaliah suspected nothing. Because going back to verse 13, the word of the Lord says that, when Athaliah heard the noise made by the guards and the people, she went to the people at the temple of the Lord. This means that everything took place not far from the palace, and yet Athaliah did not suspect anything. Jehoiada's determination and his knowledge about Athaliah led him to make wise decisions. Throughout the whole process, Jehoiada knew that Athaliah was very wicked, and he also knew that she loved power. Since she was very powerful at that time, he had to be very wise throughout the whole process. He wanted to crown Joash king without Athaliah ever finding out, and he pulled it off successfully. Only when Joash was crowned king of Judah that Athaliah was then removed from the throne and killed. Going to the book of 2 Kings chapter 11 verse 15 to 16, the word of the Lord says that, Jehoiada the priest ordered the commanders of the units of the 100 who were in charge of the troops, "Bring her out between the ranks and put to the sword anyone who follows her." For the priest had said, she must not be put to death in the temple of the Lord. So they seized her as she reached the place where the horses entered the palace grounds, and there she was put to death.